friends, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time visiting, my name is Tina Zinck. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin Up and I live in Nova Scotia, Canada. And to all of my friends returning, welcome back. I'm excited to share another video with you today. This is my free online card class for April 2022. This is free for everybody who watches this class, and there's also a free PDF tutorial. And those of you who place Stampin Up orders with me during the month of April, you will also receive a complimentary card kit to put these cards together. And as always, you can use any product that you wish, whatever stamps you already have at home. But if you live in Canada, if there are products that I use on today's cards and you don't already have a demonstrator and you wish to place an order, I'd be honored to serve you and help you in any way I can. And I just want to let you guys all know that yesterday, April 10th, was my 20th anniversary with Stampin Up. I had no idea when I bought my starter kit all those years ago the journey that I would go on as a demonstrator with this amazing company. And a part of what has made my journey so incredible is you. Those of you who have been customers of mine, as well as you who watch these videos and enjoy my tutorials on my blog and my newsletters. If I've had workshops or classes with you, you have all contributed to this amazing 20 years that I have spent with this company. And I just wanted to take a moment to send you a very heartfelt thank you, because you have made my time as a demonstrator just worth every minute, and my heart is just full of gratitude for you. And I hope I can continue to inspire you with these videos and everything else that I share with you through social media and online and what have you, or even in person if you come to some of my classes when I have them. So now I'm going to jump right into the 4 cards for this month's class. For card number 1, I am using So Saffron cardstock. Of course, this is 8.5 by 11. So I'm just going to trim that to make my card base. And what I like to do is I like to first score at 4 1/4 and then spin it around and cut it at 5 1/2. So that gives me my 2 card bases. I only need 1, but what I'll do is I will put this aside and then I've got it to make a card another time. Next, I'm bringing a piece of Designer Series paper in. This is from our Heart and Home Designer Series paper collection. I am going to cut this down at 5 1/4. Let me see, I have to figure out which way I want those planks to go. I'm going to flip this around. So I'm going to cut this down at the 5 1/4 mark and turn it and cut it at 4. So measures 4 by 5 1/4, and this is going to get glued right onto the front of my card base. I have another piece of basic white cardstock. This measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I am pulling in the Tasteful Touches stamp set. This is one of my favorite stamp sets retiring. I actually have a top 10 list of my favorite retiring stamp sets, and it's something I do every year, so you can find that on my blog. But this is one of the sets that definitely hit my top 10 in no particular order. I just love this stamp set. I'm going to be using the flower on this card, and I'm bringing in post-it notes because I'm going to be doing some masking. All right, so I am going to just ink this up with my black memento, and I want to make sure I get some of those flowers on the sticky part, because that is going to create my mask. Okay, all I'm going to do is cut this out. Okay, so I have my 2 masks. I'm going to bring the stamp in, and this is so much fun. I want to create a design with 3 of them, kind of cascading down. So I'm going to start by stamping here. Put my mask on. I'm going to stamp again, but I'm going to turn my stamp so it's not going in the same direction. And then I'm going to put my next mask on. I could even use this one, but That's all right. And I want to make sure that these lines are quite flush with the mask. I don't want to leave a gap between the mask and the stamp because I really want to really have these nice and close together. So I have to determine how I want this one. I'm going to turn this one even more. I'm going to stamp it right there. Okay. Now for the magic. I'm going to take these off, and now I have my cascading flowers. Okay, so I'm going to use my light and dark Highland Heather Stampin' Blend markers. I'm going to start with my light, and I'm just going to color them all the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and just fill in all the petals. I'm going to leave the center and come back to that once the petals are colored. Now that I have my light Highland Heather, I'm going to go in with my dark Highland Heather, and where you already have the shading on the stamp images is where I'm going to apply my dark ink. So it keeps it really simple and easy. Okay. I'm going to go back in with my light and just blend that in with the dark. Taking our color lifter, and I'm just going to tap it on the petals kind of willy-nilly, and that's just going to lighten up some of the ink, move some of that ink around, and just add a little bit of a nice variation to these flowers. So you can see it kind of adds a little bit of a pinkiness because I'm moving that ink around, and it's just kind of magical. Doesn't that look pretty? All we need now is some yellow for the centers to pull in these So Saffron centers of the flowers. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my Stampin' Write marker because I actually don't have So Saffron in my Stampin' Blends. So I'm just going to use what I have. Now it's time to cut these out, and I'm going to cut them all in one piece. There are my beautiful cascading flowers. So for the sentiment, I'm pulling in another retiring stamp set. This is Elegantly Said, and then this was the punch that coordinated with the sentiments. So I've already punched out the basic white. Those of you getting the card kits, you already have that pre-punched for you. And I'm going to use the sentiment, all the things you do are simply amazing. And I am just going to stamp that with the black and position it in the center like so. Now I'm taking this bigger stamp, which is this one right here. I'm going to ink it with my Highland Heather ink pad. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp off twice on scrap paper because I want this to be very faint, and I'm going to stamp it on top of this punch, and I just have to figure out how I want to position that. I might have to stamp it a couple times. There. Just wanted to get that light purple on this punch. Okay, so I'm bringing in my So Saffron ink pad and my blending brush, and I'm going to add some So Saffron to the edges. And this is just combining the colors that I've used on the card, but it's also going to make this punch stand out a bit more onto the card. And the little bits in here, actually I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly go in like this. just add a little bit more of that yellow. So I have made a bow out of our glittered ribbon, and I want to add a pop of color, and I could have done this beforehand, but I think it'll work just fine. I'm just going to take my dark Highland Heather Stampin' Blends marker and just go right on top. I'm just going to pop that right on the bottom like so, and I can add more glue dots once it's on the card. So I'm actually going to glue this one onto my card. I'm going to put Stampin' Dimensionals behind this piece. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a large basic rhinestone and just pop it right here. And now I've just added some clear Wink of Stella. I'm just going over again, just to the center of the flowers, and let me tell you, that made all the difference in the world. Look how that just kicked this up a notch. So pretty. And of course you can use different stamps for your cascading. You could have added some leaves. Different designer series paper would give this an entirely different look. This is such a fun layout and a fun technique. And for those of you at home who are casing this, copying this card, or if you're receiving the card kit in the mail, I hope you love the elegant simplicity of this card. This is an easy card, and I'm basing it on a card that I made absolutely years and years and years and years ago, but I still love the design of it and the simplicity, which is perfect for beginner stampers, and also for those of us who've been stamping for a long time and we just need to make a quick, easy card. But it's also featuring one of my favorite and easiest techniques as well. So I'm going to start off by taking my bumblebee ribbon, and I am just going to make a knot in the center. Okay. Then I have a strip of the Heart and Home Designer Series paper. This measures 4 1/4 by 1 1/4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tear a tiny strip off the top going towards me, because when you go towards yourself when you're tearing, you get a nicer edge. Okay. Now I'm going to take my tear and tape, and I'm going to put a strip. Let's move my card base out of the way. We're going to put a strip kind of in the center. And let's go right across. Whoops. I jiggled. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, we're going to have to improvise there. Okay, I'm going to take my take your pick tool. Peel off the backing, push that a little bit down, and then I'm going to just put this on that. I'm trying to line up my knot where I've torn that paper accidentally. There. Okay. Stick that on like so. Card base is basic white, and this is cut at 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2, because I want it to open this way. And that's off a little bit, so I'm just gonna fold that. Okay, this is going to go right across the bottom. Always good to measure your designer series paper before you put the ribbon on it, in case it's not quite flush with your pre-cut cardstock, but that worked out really well. All right, this is a 1-layer card as well, so I'm going to pull in one of my favorite retiring stamp sets, and everything, friends, that I'm sharing with you today in this video is still available at the time of me filming this. So I'm going to pull in Forever Blossoms. So this set has coordinating dies, but I am just going to keep it simple today. Put my block on, which that doesn't fit. Let's do that. There we go. Okay, so the technique is markers direct to stamp. So if you've been stamping for a while, this will not be a new technique. Highly doubtful. But if you are new to stamping, and I know that many of you are brand new to stamping, you may not have seen this technique, and it is just so fun and satisfying. So I'm going to pull in my Bumblebee marker. These are our regular Stampin' Right markers, and you've got the thin line so that you can see that that tip is for journaling, and then your bold line across, so that's your bold tip. And believe it or not, it was years before I ever realized that. I was always taking off the tips to see which end I was working with, not even realizing. And I really hope this stamp is clean, because it's not looking so clean. So I am going right on top of the flowers, and if you have to turn it around to kind of look to see where to place the ink, you can do that. And when you're doing this, you want to use sort of the side of your bold tip. You don't want to press down on the tip, because that's going to ruin the tip. So work on the side of your stamp when you're going on to your stamp images. Now what will happen as well is, especially for a bigger stamp like this, is once you're done using your markers, a lot of that ink is going to dry. So all you have to do is just lightly huff on it, and your breath will re-moisten that ink. I've heard some stampers refer to it as the breath of life. So you're going to want to give this stamp the breath of life when you're ready to stamp it down. So now I'm bringing in my Flirty Flamingo, and I'm going to go on top of those flowers, and I'm just kind of wiggling. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap. So I'm just literally tapping it, letting it go where it goes, and I'm turning my stamp around a little bit, kind of like playing a drum on your stamp. Okay, and then the last color is Garden Green, and I'm choosing Garden Green and also the Bumblebee, because those are the colors I already have on my cards. So of course that makes beautiful coordinating stamps. Okay, so I'm just going over the leaves and the stems, up by the flowers. I love, after I've inked up my stamps, to lightly mist them with water and then stamp. It's such a cool effect, but I am not going to do that today. I'm just going to keep it nice and simple and keep the lines clean. Okay, I think there's a little bit of a stem there. Let me just check. I think I've got her all, hopefully. Okay, so the huffing part. So I'm just going to lightly breathe on it. And I am going to stamp it. Let's get in here. I'm going to stamp it on a tilt, just like that, because I'm going to put the sentiment up here in this corner. So just push down nice and firm. Let that ink absorb into that paper. This is just our regular basic white cardstock. And that is the beautiful effect. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but you can definitely pick up the Flirty Flamingo. And of course it has blended in with that Bumblebee, but it is most certainly, the two tones are there, and I just think it's beautiful. Time for a sentiment. I am going to just stick with this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp All of Me Loves All of You. And I'm going to use my black memento for this one. Make sure that stamp's kind of evenly. Okay. My S got a little bit smudgy there, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that. I have a strip of basic white cardstock. This is from when I'm trimming my cardstock. I save all these and put them in my desk. And they make great little banners and perfect for fixing mistakes like the one I just did. And I have to decide if I want to flag this or keep it straight. I think I'm just going to keep it straight. And by straight, I don't mean it has to be perfect either. Perfection is so overrated. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to trim this closer to the bottom of the words. There. Okay, I'm going to put that on with some Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm using my mini dimensionals, and the unspeakable happened last week. I finally did it, you guys. I spilt my cup of coffee all over my desk, and I was rearranging my desk at the time and everything on my desk, and I can tell you, it was a mess. A couple cards had to go in the bin, but I did save most everything else. Oh, Lord. Okay, so see, this is just going to go right on top. Oops, not quite covering that S like I want it to. There we go. And I always say, and this is so true, you guys, well, I'm going to say every time that I make a mistake and I go to fix it, I always end up liking the fixed bit better than the original idea, because now that's just given me just that little bit of dimension to the card. Okay, lastly, we need some bling on those flowers. Otherwise, it's just not a proper Tina card. I do love my bling. So I'm just pulling in some of our basic rhinestones, and I'm going to put one in the center of each flower. And there is my finished card. So simple, right? But isn't it beautiful? And it's one of those card designs, like I said, that I've been using for years. I love the technique of the marker direct to the stamp. If you wanted to, you could take a blending pen and you can pull in the color. I don't really want to do that because I really like how that looks, but I will show you actually on a scrap piece of, actually not even a scrap piece. I have another card here. So I will clean my stamp and do it again and show you what it looked like if I use the blending pen. So pretty, so pretty. Now, when I take a blending pen, these are blending pens, so they're both the same tip on each side. These are phenomenal because you can use them right in your ink pad and pick up the ink and color. I like to go on my scrap paper first to make sure there's no ink on it. And I'm going to go into my leaves. So let me zoom in for you. And watch how this blending pen just pulls in that color. Just pulls in the ink from the outline. Okay. And then go back and forth on your placemat or your scrap paper. Make sure it's clean. And I'm going to pull in the color from the flowers. And I'm not sure how, it might muddy it up because there are two colors on there. Like, can you see how I have that flirty flamingo? I've got a different tripod and setup with my camera and the lights. So I'm hoping that the lighting is good for you guys and you can really see what I'm doing. And actually, this is looking quite nice, even with the two markers on here. So I'm literally just going in little tiny circles, and it's just ever so faintly pulling in the color so that it's not white in between those petals. And I think that's it. So can you see now how they're colored in? That actually looks so pretty. You know what? I wasn't going to do it on this one, but I'm going to now. Now that I've seen how pretty that looks, I'm going to go ahead. But at least now you see what it looks like if you just stamp it and leave it. Or if you want to pull in a little bit of that color to color in your petals or whatever stamp image you want to use. That is so fun, so easy, and so simple, isn't it? And look how pretty. And you could do that with so many different stamp images. You could put a little butterfly on here. So you could really kick this up or keep this as simple as you like. But that marker direct to the stamp technique for me has never ever grown old. For card number 3, I am using 2 more stamp sets that are retiring, Positive Thoughts and In Bloom. And these both have dies that coordinate with them. This one has a ton of dies. So much fun. And this one has dies as well, which they are in here. So it's got the frame and then all the different images that are in this set. The technique I'm going to share with you is kissing. Yes, I am going to show you how to kiss with stamps. So for this technique, if it is new to you, you do need a solid image stamp. And then you need some different images that are outlined and that have different designs. But you do need a solid image for proper kissing. So I am just going to start with this one. And I'm going to put that on a block. I'm going to grab another block. I'm going to use this flower. So you can see that this one's photopolymer. This one is my cling. So my basic white cardstock measures 5.5 by 2 3/4. So let's get some inking happening here. I am going to pull in Calypso Coral and Petal Pink. So I'm going to do the Petal Pink. Tough call. I'm going to do the Petal Pink on the solid image. And then I'm going to ink the outline image with the Calypso Coral. And because I'm going to be using photopolymer, I like to have my Stampin' mat underneath. So all I'm going to do, you can literally just kiss them together, holding them, or you can put one down and then you can kind of position, especially when this is a clear stamp, on top. And I'm going to bring this in and I'm just going to stamp it down. So you can see you get your 2 tones and you get that design on a flower that is just a completely solid image. Now before I stamp it again, I do want to make sure this is clean. So let me just grab my chamois here. Okay, so I have my chamois. I don't often show this on my videos. I often use a rag, but I often use this too. So Stampin' Up does sell this, and I just keep it in a clear case. And I'm gonna ink this up exactly the same. Clean this one too. My desk is feeling a little small because I started my vegetable seeds, some cauliflower and celery, and I'm trying to grow hollyhocks for the first time. So I'm gonna flip this around, move my lamp, but can you see? I have seeds on my desk, and behind me on the table, my table is loaded with another 5 trays. So I am working in a tiny space here because I've got my seeds started for my flowers and vegetables, or some of them. Too early to start a whole lot right now, but just showing you what's going on in my little stamp space here. Okay, so this time I'm literally just going to kiss them together, so I'm not being too particular about where the image goes when those 2 pieces touch. And look at that. Oh my gosh, truly cool. I am cleaning my stamps. I want to do another one, so I'm going into my pink, my Calypso Coral, and Kiss. And I'm going to put this one, let's see, we'll put that one right there. Okay, so now I'm going to do the leaves. So in this set, there are a couple of leaves, different sizes. So I'm going to, they're a bit big, I think, for this. I'm just going to use this one first. And colors. Let's see. Let's go with let's keep this bright and happy. We're gonna go with Granny Apple Green. And what else? Shaded Spruce. So for the design, I could use the same flower, but I could also use this, but I'm gonna try using a feather. I think that will look really cool. So I'm inking the solid with the lighter color first, which is Granny Apple, and then my feather in the darker color, which is Shaded Spruce. And I'm gonna kiss them. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so cool. Look at that. It almost looks like marbling. I know that leaf actually is way too big for that flower, but it's what I'm using. And I'm going to do that completely the same way. And this time I'm going to kiss them with that down so I can kind of position this in a fun way. Wow. Really, really cool. Let's put this one here. Like, isn't that neat? And imagine once you start looking at your stamps, I guarantee you're going to start looking them in a different way. Really, really too big a leaf for this flower. But let's just pretend that's just the kind of plant this is. And we kiss. And I'm going to stamp this one here. So it's coming off the page. And I do like to work in odd numbers. So I'm going to add 2 more. So I have 5. So I've cleaned the solid stamp. I'm inking up the feather. Kiss. And let's see. I'm going to just go ahead and do that. And one more. Granny Apple. Shaded Spruce. Let's try going that way. Isn't that fun? Did I mention that those leaves are way too big for that flower? I do believe I did. I do believe I did. But if you watch some of my other videos, you may have heard me say there are no rules. I mean, you don't want to like contaminate your ink pads and, you know, stamp your dark green into your light green. So I guess there are some rules. But when it comes to what you create and how you create it and the end result, it's all about you and what makes you happy. And, you know, sometimes that's just how we learn what we like and what we don't like and what works and what doesn't work. But bottom line, friends, no rules. Okay, I want to fill in some of that white a little bit. I'm going to stamp the butterfly. Okay, while I have the Blackberry Bliss out, I'm just going to ink up my butterfly. I'm going to stamp my butterfly right there. Bringing the In Bloom stamp set back, I am going to stamp the center of the flowers with, you got all these different little bits and pieces, right? I'm going to use these little dots. I'm going to stick with my Blackberry Bliss. I'm just going to stamp them right down in the middle. Okay, I'm bringing in some soft sea foam, and I'm going to stamp this image from Positive Thoughts in the white areas, in the white space of this card, just to kind of fill things in a little bit and see how nice and soft that is. And I'm going right on top of those leaves as well. That's fine. Don't want to go over my butterfly. I really want that to be a bit darker there. So there we have that. Okay, so I am now going to glue this onto a piece of Calypso Coral, and the Calypso Coral measures 5.5 by 3, and I think this bottle of glue is almost finished, but I think we might have enough to complete my cards. I'll put that down. So I am using the Heart and Home Designer Series paper again, and again I'm using the wood grain for my card. This measures 5.5 by 4.25, and I'm taking my Sahara Sand ink pad and I'm just going to swipe it right across this paper. Until it's colored just the way I want it. I'm just going with a very light touch. Just a little bit up here. You could use your blending brush to do this. I'm just doing that direct ink to paper. And I'm going to bring in crumb cake now and just add a little bit of crumb cake just for little variation of color. Okay, this is going to get glued to my card base, basic white. I'm just going to line that right up with the crease. And this is why I love the glue, because I can reposition this if it's off a bit. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this on. So I'm bringing in my Happy Birthday, You Really Are the Best stamp. And I am just going to use the Happy Birthday. And if you want to, you could actually cut these stamps in two if you wanted to. And I've done that in the past, but I'm not doing that today. I am going to use my markers and I'm going to omit the words that I don't want. So I'm just going to take my bold tip, just like I did on the earlier card today, and I am going to ink up Happy Birthday. And I'm going to stamp this on a strip of soft sea foam, and it measures 1/2 inch by 4.25. So I'm just going to stamp that kind of in the center, and you'll notice maybe that I didn't huff on it. That's because it really didn't take me long to ink it. So it was pretty good and inked, and the ink hadn't dried yet. So let me grab my scissors and pull in my card, and I'm going to flag the ends. So I'm just going to go up the center, from the corner to the center and the corner to the center. Now, I might just keep this end straight. So I'm just going to trim that up a bit. Helps if you see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. I'm going to put that right there, and I'm going to put it on with dimensionals. Make sure I'm happy where I put that. Yeah, I think that's good there. So I'm just going to line up this edge with the white. Add a rhinestone to the center of the butterfly to finish the card on the front. Now for the inside, I'm going to use the same stamp that I just used on the front. So I'm just going to clean off that marker on the Happy Birthday bit and stamp it on my paper. Make sure there's no ink on there. Using the same marker, I'm going to now ink the bottom portion, which reads, You Really Are the Best. And that's going to go inside my card. And I'm just going to keep it very simple for the inside. And there is my finished card using the kissing technique. So the last card for this month's class is going to use probably one of my very favorite all-time stamp sets, which is Sailing Home. And I don't know, guys, I just absolutely love the style of this set. Of course, being from British Columbia, growing up in Vancouver Island with the ocean, and now living in Nova Scotia, which is, you know, where my father's family is from, and again, lighthouses and ocean. I grew up going fishing. I grew up down at the dock. This speaks to me, and the anchor is so symbolic to me, you know, for hope and strength. And I think you get the idea. I love, love, love this stamp set. And I also noticed all of the cards so far feature flowers this month. So I want to do something that's not flowers for the last card. I am bringing in my silicone craft sheet, and let's move that out of the way. And I'm going to pull in my Soul Saffron ink pad. I'm just going to dab that just kind of in the middle. And now I'm going to bring in Calypso Coral and add a little bit of that. And what next? Rich Razzleberry. Add a teeny bit of that. I'm just kind of going across in a line, but there's no right or wrong. And once you kind of see where I'm going with this, you can take this idea and run with it and play with it. And now I'm going to turn that around and work from the middle down. I'm actually going to pull in a little bit of real red, which is not something I would ordinarily do, but I'm going to. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's plenty of colors. Next, I'm bringing in our Stampin' Spritzer from Stampin' Up, and this just has plain water in it. It did have some ink refill in there, so that's why it looks like that. I just cleaned it, but it is just water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly spritz this, and this is just water-based dye ink, and that's probably way more water than what I need. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my basic white cardstock, and I have a little bit of off spray from what I was just missing that, and I like it, so I'm going to keep it there. And I actually see I need to spray some of that blue up the top. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this just like that, and then I'm going to roll the bend into the ink and see what happens. You don't want to roll it back too much back and forth, because otherwise it's going to muddy up. So you can see I got some water on there. That's okay. You can let the drips roll down. Sorry guys, I didn't realize I was off the camera so much there. I have a little bit of a sharp line there, but I'm not going to worry about that. And because I have still quite a bit of ink on here, I have just another piece of basic white cardstock. I don't even know what this measures. I'm actually just going to plop it right on and rub that into the ink and see what kind of background I get, and I can use that for other cards. Let's see. I can have a lot of fun with that. Let it dry and then cut it up. All right, so let me just wipe off this mat. And then I'm gonna grab my heat tool and heat up this piece to speed up the drying. So when your paper starts to curl, if you heat the back side of it, it'll flatten it out a little bit. Okay, I am bringing in my Stamparatus, and I'm just going to position this on. I'm just lining it up with this top bit right there, putting my magnet down, and I think I might need another one. So I'm going to put that there. And I'm going to pull in my anchor. You can see I got the dies, and I have some already cut out. And look at the state of these stamps. Like, they are so well loved. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous, I tell you. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, I am going to take my anchor first. And I have like embossing powder stuck on this. I have glitter stuck on this. Seriously. Crazy. Okay, I'm going to position that right in the middle. And I'm going to put my stamp set right here to support that. And I'm going to stamp this with basic black, the Memento black. So I've just put my sentiment, let hope be your anchor through the storms of life. Okay, I'm going to ink this with real red. And I know that's really hard to see at the moment, so this may or may not work. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to see. I might have to go on top with black. All right. Don't know till you try. I was gonna emboss that with clear, but I still think it'll be hard to see. So I'm just gonna go right on top with black. Now I'm gonna take my birds and stamp some birds up here. And to finish the card, I'm gonna bring in my clear Wink of Stella, and I'm just going to add some to the anchors, and this will pick up some of the ink on the tip, which I kind of want it because I want to pull some color in here. I'm going to add a little bit to the birds and to the words anchor and life. Maybe we'll add a little bit on these little end bits and across there. So there's the finished card. It is basically a one-layer card, except I did, obviously put it on the card base. And I absolutely could have stamped that and done it in a different color, like gold. Oh my goodness, gold would be awesome. That is a really simple, fun card to make with that background. And I love the simplicity. There's no die cuts, no punching, nothing. And of course, you could use any stamp set, but I do love the Sailing Home. I hope you enjoyed this month's card class. I know I had a lot of fun designing them and creating these cards for you. I love the simplicity of them. I love that to create these fun techniques, I only had to use basic stamping tools. There's no die cutting or any fancy-pantsy product that you need, just basic stamps, ink, and paper, and of course a little bit of punching, but lots of fun techniques and different ways to use your stamps at home. So I hope you were inspired. Don't forget the PDF tutorial is listed in the description down below for you. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Take care. Happy stamping.